We're all familiar with the saying, April rains bring May flowers. Right? We know that rain is a dreary feeling to it, can be inconvenient, can be quite unwelcome. We also know that without the rain, we're not going to have these flowers. Right? We're not going to have the green grass. The Buddha's teachings kind of very similar in nature. Right? His very first teaching talks about suffering. Right? He didn't jump straight into enlightenment. He didn't say there are flowers. He said we all suffer. Right? But specifically, he said life includes suffering. It includes unease. It includes a sense of dissatisfaction. And that's not a pessimistic attitude. It's the truth. It's the way life is. Now, it's not saying that life is suffering, that it just includes it. Buddha's symbol of suffering is the lotus flower, right? We know the lotus flower, it only grows out of muddy water, right? And its roots are deeply entrenched in that mud. Yet it's from that mud, through the murky waters, that this beautiful flower blossoms. From that point of view, mud is not a problem to remove. Right? Mud is simply a condition for the flower. As Thich Nhat Hanh so famously said, no mud, no lotus. That's a fact. Habitually, we all look outside of ourselves for the contentment, the joy, something different. The issue is it's outside of us that mud truly resides. You know, whether it be a book or watching a video or listening to a teacher here, these sources are only pointing the way. Right? There's a famous Buddhist teaching on the finger and the moon. Right? And many people will mistake the finger for the moon. The finger is only pointing the way. Okay, the moon resides within us. What we're trying to do, in essence, is to retrain our minds on how we view ourselves, perceive ourselves, as well as the rest of the world. Like I said before, it takes work. You can listen to as many Dharma talks, read as many books as you want. But if that effort personal effort isn't put into it, it's going to be meaningless. Never forget one of the first retreats I went to. There were two things that she said that really stuck with me. The first one was, this is not a self-help class. It took me a while to figure that one out. The second one was, don't believe anything I say. Right? Experience it for yourself. Right? Some of you know I drive a school bus. I also train drivers to be school bus drivers. And there's two types of students in front of me. One, we go through the class that week. They go home. They put it behind them. They do nothing. They show up the following week, and maybe there's a little bit of improvement from the week before, but not much. Then there's the other driver who we go through the same information, but they go home, they read through it again, maybe they come back to the bus and they spend their time on it, identifying what they need to identify and putting in the work. They come back the following week and they got it. It's like anything else that we want to get good at. If we don't put in the work, we reap what we sow. The Buddha's teachings are called a path. Okay? And the Buddha laid out this path. But he nor anybody else will walk it for you. Right? That's our job, is to walk the path. That's what you did getting here today. You started walking on that path, or continuing to walk on that path. So getting back to this mud, this suffering, sometimes referred to as dukkha, the Pali word, translated from what the Buddha said. It includes the obvious things like illness, aging, loss, grief. Those are clear and plain to see. It also includes more subtle dissatisfaction, like restlessness, anxiety, even a dissatisfaction when things are seemingly going good. How many times have you, if I get this, I'm going to be so happy, and then you get it, and then that shine wears off pretty quickly. And you're like, okay, what's next? That's suffering. Because we are so deeply involved with suffering, it is really important to understand it, to be able to recognize it when it comes up, and then have a knowledge of what we can do about it. Buddha said, just as a lotus flower born in water grows in water and rises out of water to stand above the unsoiled, so I was born in the world, grew in the world, and rise above the world. And I know fact that if the Buddha can do it, we can do it too. Because I've seen it. I've lived it. Story from the Buddha's time, maybe some of you have heard of. It's about the mustard seed. And this young woman, she lost her only child. And for days she carried this child in her arms, going from village to village, to house, asking for somebody to give her something to bring her child back. And finally, somebody pointed her in the direction of the Buddha. So she went. The Buddha compassionately listened, as he always did, and then suggested that she go through the village and start knocking on doors and bring him back a mustard seed from any house that has not seen death. In her mind, she's going to come back with a handful of mustard seeds because nobody could nearly be as bad as I am, right? So, with a sense of hopefulness, she begins knocking on doors. And there are lots of mustard seeds in her village. But she doesn't end up with a one. Every house that she has knocked on, be it a parent, a spouse, a child, a sister, a brother, somebody has experienced death. The comfort that was received in that message to her was that she's not alone. She learned that suffering is universal, and everybody experiences it. So she returned to the Buddha transformed, full of compassion. Now, this story doesn't eliminate suffering, but it does let us know that it is a shared human experience. And again, understanding that is where our compassion can begin to grow. So the Buddha he never said, nor did he ever stop suffering. Nobody did. But he did lay out this path, as I said, for us to walk upon, to recognize it, and to eventually alleviate it. At least give us a break from time to time. If we go back to the image of the lotus, right, the mud, like I said, that's our suffering. And the stem, as it's rising through the murky water, that is the practice. And of course, the flower is the results. So this path is commonly referred to as the Noble Eightfold Path. And it's comprised of a wisdom component, an ethical component, and a concentration component. And the wisdom component starts off with right to view. And view is how we view the world. So seeing it clearly. And what I mean by that is seeing the impermanent nature of everything. And how that impermanence, how that change, how that clinging to that not wanting to be true causes us suffering. So again, it's not about adopting any specific belief, but about being aware of that fact. So when we begin to recognize that everything is changing, everything is impermanent, we can begin to lessen our grasp on things. And through that, we recognize the suffering that is caused by our grasping and the peace, contentment that can come from letting go, from releasing. like everything, there's a possibility to get too far in one way or the other. And certainly with this, there's no difference, right? You can become very cold and very detached. Oh, F it, right? It's not going to last. That's not the point. The point is to be with the experience in its wholeness, but recognizing that it will change. That can truly make us much more compassionate towards ourselves and towards others. The second is right intention. The cultivation of intention, there's three main teachings that the Buddha gave on that. And that's, first was letting go, sometimes referred to as renunciation. And you have kindness and non-harming. So renunciation, or letting go, again, it's not rejecting the world, but it's that invitation to reduce the grasping and recognizing that inner freedom that comes from that. Right? A mind that is content with renunciation can say to itself, I'm okay right here, no matter what's going on around me. Kindness. Having that altruistic intention to wish all beings well. Okay? No judgments, all beings well. That's not easy. Sometimes at a minimum, all I can do is not wish ill will. And that's good enough. And sometimes that's hard. And the harmlessness, when we let go, when we invite kindness in, harmlessness just naturally follows. We no longer wish harm on ourselves or others. So these three intentions really shape our entire path. Really lay the groundwork. And what are they laying the groundwork to? They're laying the groundwork to how to live ethically. Right? And traditionally, it starts with speech, right speech. Right? Speaking truthfully, speaking kindly. Buddha specifically spoke of three types of speech to avoid. False speech, deliberately lying, deceiving people. Harsh speech, divisive speech, gossip, slander. Oh, fourth one, idle chatter. One of my favorites, speech without purpose. And the wonderful thing about the Buddha's teachings is he almost always tells you what to avoid and what to do. And this is no different. So rather than false speech, harsh, divisive, and idle chatter, how about we speak truthfully, gently, harmoniously, and meaningful. Now, this doesn't mean don't speak. It doesn't even mean to censor our speech. Sometimes the most important action, the most important tool we have is our speech. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it useful? And does it need to be said right now? If those four are met with yeses, then we speak the truth. And sometimes, yes, the truth can hurt the person we're speaking to or the people we're speaking to. That doesn't mean it's a bad speech. The next in the ethical living is right action. Right? Living in ways that reduce harm. Right? To me, it's really the leaning into integrity with everything that we do. You know, if I can bring compassion and mindfulness into everything I do, then integrity will be there. So there are three core teachings that the Buddha gave on wise action. Okay? Not taking a life, not taking what's not given, both physically and personally, and wise conduct within relationships, right? Avoiding sexual or emotional harm. And the last in the ethical group is right livelihood. Right? Most of us in our working years, most of our time is spent there, right? In how we choose to make a living. Right? Does my work align with compassion and integrity? It's interesting that, you know, our society has not grown that much, because even 2,600 years ago, he was referring to trading in weapons, trading in living beings, intoxicants, poisons, right? Those are as true 2,600 years ago as they are today. Right? But livelihood isn't, we're so much attuned to, you know, how much money I make or the status of the position that I have within livelihood. I like to suggest we turn that on its head. Okay? As long as we're not doing anything that's overtly causing harm, right livelihood is about what we bring to it. Okay? Is our energy fully there? Is our effort fully within our job? And not just our job, whatever it is we're doing at that moment. Okay? You can be working at a place just punching parts all day long. Okay? Maybe you think it does benefit, maybe you think it doesn't. But if you're fully there and you're present, then you are as important and noble as a teacher, a doctor, a nurse, a parent. When done with integrity, our work becomes an offering, irregardless of what we're doing. Yeah. So what is the inner quality of the motivation? These ethics, as we follow them, truly will stabilize the mind and the relationships that we're in. And the final one was the cultivation of the mind, right? The concentrative ability. And within here we have three. We start with right effort. Okay, and right effort is really about gently guiding the mind towards these wholesome states. It's not about striving. It's not about forcing. But energizing our heart for that compassion and loving kindness. The Dalai Lama said, we must make a sustained effort to develop the positive aspects of our mind and uproot the negative. This is the essence of the Buddhist path. So within wise effort, the Buddha taught 4 parts, often translated as the 4 great endeavors. Okay? The first one, prevent unwholesome states from arising. The next one is abandon unwholesome states that may have already arisen. Third is cultivate wholesome states that have not yet arisen. And the fourth is to maintain and deepen wholesome states that are already present. Okay? So we're preventing, we're abandoning, we're cultivating, and we're maintaining and deepening. It's kind of like tending to a garden, right? So we're pulling the weeds, and in our case, those weeds are greed, hatred, and delusion. And we're watering, and that water is this mindfulness, kindness, and this wisdom. Speaking of mindfulness, that's the next step on this path, right? Mindfulness is about being present with our current experience. And my favorite definition of mindfulness, I will credit to Jon Kabat-Zinn. Paying attention on purpose to the present moment without judgment. This is really the heart of the path. And within the teaching of mindfulness from the Buddha, he takes it to 4. It's always 4s. 4 core teachings. And the first one is mindfulness of the body. That was my opening instruction to you today. Right? Getting to know the body in the present moment. The next one is feelings and feeling tones. Recognizing with compassion and non-judgment how we are feeling at any given moment. Okay? And when I say without judgment, we're not going to use terms I feel good, I feel bad. We're going to use terms like pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. Okay? Earlier we're meditating. I heard the birds. I don't know if anybody else heard the birds. That was kind of pleasant. Right? And I heard the train. Some may think the train is pleasant. I didn't find it so pleasant. Right? And then there was a decent amount of neutrality. Using those terms puts it in a softer context for ourselves. The third training on mindfulness is mindfulness of the mind. And really understanding where the mind goes. Noticing states like desire and anger, joy and contentment. And noticing what watered those states. And the last one is mindfulness of what's called dhammas. And these are just seeing patterns of experience, right? Noticing the impermanent nature of life. Noticing karma, how our actions have a cause and effect. Noticing the interdependence of everything. So practicing mindfulness is not at all retreating from life. It's fully engaging with life. Everything. We're not picking and choosing. Right? So whether we're washing dishes, we just wash dishes. We're out for a walk, we just go out for a walk. We're eating a meal, we just eat our meal. We're breathing, we just breathe. Being aware in that moment. And the final one is concentration. Concentration gives us a quiet stability, a knowing. Right? It's a gathering of the heart. It's that ability to stay still, even in rough seas. And concentration, it's really, while the image of the Eightfold Path is a circle, a wheel, concentration is really dependent on every other step of the path. Okay? If we're living ethically, we'll be more at ease, right? If we're living mindfully, we'll have more clarity. If we're putting in the effort, we'll have the attention. And together they really create the atmosphere for us to have that stillness. So the Buddha said, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. So the more awareness we can bring to what we think, and the more awareness we can bring to where we want to go, and then use the antidote when necessary, that's what the shift can happen. Zen teacher Suzuki Roshi wrote, "Life is like stepping into a boat which is about to set out to sea and sink." Sounds kind of dire, but that's the impermanence, right? That's the impermanence of life. Eventually that boat is going to sink. One way or another. It's not going to last forever. I don't care what it's made out of. It's going to hit the ocean floor. Right? Everything changes. So what are we holding on to? So again, how do we bring this into our lives? Right? It's through that lived practice. It's through that awareness and that recognition every single moment of every single day. It's taking that pause before we speak or react to avoid that moment of anger. Maybe not that moment of anger, but maybe how we respond to that moment of anger. Because anger is okay. It's what we do with that anger that's the problem, potentially. You know, when we speak honestly, kindly, we're creating that kindness of the heart. When we sit mindfully in sessions like this and observe the breath, we're just working on mindfulness. Each small moment of this practice is that stem growing just a little bit further up to the top of the water. You know, like I said, these April rains, as we call them, the suffering, nourishes the soil. Right? Nobody is without. I like to think that because of the mud that I trudged through, I'm a better person today. You know, the suffering that we go through, yeah, it can feel heavy, pretty crappy from time to time. But it opens this possibility of wisdom that potentially we didn't have before. We didn't see it before. We always had it. You know, going back to what Thich Nhat Hanh said, right? No mud, no lotus.